Welcome to Verse Virtual. It's February. Can you believe that? And it's the middle of the month, or more than the middle, because this is a short month. It's amazing how fast this year is already going. It's scary. Um, Dick, you're my co-host. You can let people in if you'd like. Okay. Today we have two terrific features who I've been looking forward to for about a year now since I scheduled them. And I unfortunately forgot to go get their web pages. There's just too many things happening right now, but I do have a bio. So we're going to start with Nin Andrews. Nin is the author of 15 poetry collections. Her poetry has been featured in numerous journals and anthologies, including Plowshares, Agni, the Paris Review, and 4 editions of Best American Poetry. Her poems have been translated into Turkish, performed in Prague, and anthologized in England, Australia, and Mongolia. Wow. She is also the editor of a book of translations of the Belgian writer Henri Michaud. Her collection, Son of a Bird, or a memoir in prose poems, was published in 2025 by Etruscan Press. Take it away, and everybody else, please mute if you are not Nin.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. So it's Valentine's Day. I couldn't decide which poems to read because I have kind of aged out of writing love poems if you can do that. And so I was looking through my work. Um, I have been writing some relationship poems recently, although they might be more like anti-love poems or something along those lines. So I thought I would read some of those, and some of them are recently published in the online journal Only Poems. The one I'm going to start with is called The Silence, and it touches on the kind of pressure I think our culture puts on young girls. It's something I've been thinking about lately with the Epstein files and all that horrible stuff that's going on. The Silence. No one can say how it began, least of all the girl in the photo on my desk, dressed in a white frothy wedding dress who has been performing all her life for teachers, lovers, friends, parents, spouses. Her mother was always arranging her like a bouquet, each morning pinning her hair back in goody barrettes, then dabbing her face, first with a wet cloth, then with rouge and lipstick and eyeshadow. Her mother always said a girl can be someone special or no one at all. The choice is hers. I will be no one, the girl knew, as certain as her name was Annie Louise, as the gap between her front teeth, as the long wait between dinner and 4 o'clock in the afternoon with the cat and a Nancy Drew mystery on her lap, a macaroon melting on her tongue. She ate slowly as she read, so slowly that even now, years later, the afternoon hours taste like coconut and sugar, so sweet her heart aches. Sometimes when she put the book down and
Drank
gazed
the
into the
leftover
distance,
coffee off. I
she
didn't
thought she
drink the
heard
leftover coffee. I drank the coffee I started.
Excuse me, please mute yourself if you are not reading.
she thought she heard the still quiet voice of God. What does it sound like? Her mother asked. She didn't say, like the pause between the bathroom's faucets. Slow drip, drip. Each drop was clinging to the spout, a tiny universe waiting to fall. So I'm going to move forward to a time in college when um, I would sometimes, I had a job, but I'd sometimes be a nude model for art students. A friend and I both did it. And the way I did it was to completely make myself an object. It was like I was not human at all. I was just a piece of marble. But my friend hated being seen as an object and wanted to be thanked and admired and to sort of be in the room with the artist. So she loved it when people chatted with her. At one point, she fell in love with one of the art students. And this is my friend's story as I imagine it. And the poem is a nod to Robert Haas's famous poem, A Story About the Body. The Proposal. As a student, I took a job posing nude for art classes at a university and became obsessed with a certain man who painted my body again and again. Tall and lanky with silver hair, he was unlike the other artists who stared at me as if I were not all there. Instead, he smiled, asked my name, and nodded from time to time. As he painted and chatted, his arms waving wildly, I felt the darkness I carried inside me glide away like a shadow. One day, without bothering to dress, I waited for him to pack his things after class. He sighed and lowered his gaze. "I'm sorry," he said, "but I'm a Christian man, newly saved, which is why I miss so many classes. My pastor insists I should not be seeing a woman who poses nude before an audience." He left without another word, the swinging door whooshing behind him. The next day, when I arrived for a sitting, I found a stack of paintings on my chair, rolled up and neatly tied with ribbons. At first, I thought they were pictures of me, but when I opened them, I saw they were mermaids, or rather of women dressed in form-fitting white gowns that bound their thighs together and flared out at their feet like a tail. "Will you marry me?" was written in red on each painting. So the next poem continues this love story between the artist and my friend. It didn't go very well. After the wedding, we moved to your hometown of Scranton, PA. I knew no one there, but everyone knew me as the wife, a title I wore like a mask. We bought an old farmhouse at the end of a dirt road where the postman was my only guest. After a few months, I began to talk to stray dogs, cats, and the wind and the clouds. Alone, I saw ghosts in the window, a stranger in the mirror. You were gone all day, working from dawn till night, while I was supposed to wash the dishes, clean the house, weed the garden where only turnips thrived. And to make our dinner, of course, usually burgers or tuna with hamburger helper, or hot dogs with Uncle Ben's minute rice. Some days I never left the couch. When I complained I was depressed, you said I was just a little stressed. Such things happen with new brides, you'd read in an advice column of Christian life. We needed to save money, but on special occasions you bought me gifts, white roses, the color of purity according to the florist, or proper clothes from Sears Roebuck and Company. You never liked my taste. On Sundays, you dressed me in voluminous gowns, wide at the hips. I looked like a three-tiered cake, the kind placed in a display case to be seen, not sliced or served with a warm cup of tea on a wintry night. So this friend and I kept in touch for many years, and during those years, my first book came out. It was called The Book of Orgasms, and at one point, she asked, as a kind of joke, maybe not really a joke, how to have an orgasm, which inspired me to write this next poem. The Orgasm Class. One day I signed up for an orgasm class, or rather, a class for ladies who lack intimacy in their lives, as the brochure read, and discovered I am a member of a tribe of blonde ladies with red lips and pale moon faces, gold crosses around their necks. Barbie babes, the teacher called us, gals who are grateful even for our airplane snacks on a flight. It's not about appearing pretty or nice, she reminded us again and again. Her first lessons included simple tasks: smelling a rose, tasting butter on a slice of warm toast, listening to Edelweiss at dawn, Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata at dusk. We soon moved past these cliches, took up swimming in the dark, eating with only tongues, letting caterpillars traverse our bare legs. I discovered an appetite for the first time, but not for sex. In bed, no matter what I tried, I remained cold and lost. I was reminded of my early days of trying to write poetry. How often the professor said, "That's not a poem. It has no skin, no heart, no bite." So this next poem, one of the things I always I hate the way our culture allows expects women to be without appetite, without never having hunger, and men are allowed to have appetite, sexual or otherwise, and so that the model girl is like it looks like a starving teenager. Um, so this one again, it's in the same series. Alternatives to sex. Last night when you were out of town, I polished off that tub of Neapolitan ice cream you hid in the freezer. Then I went to our favorite diner and ordered the lobster paella, a side of raw kale salad, and 3 cups of jasmine tea. I needed some protein and fiber after all that dessert, and something to warm my blood. The ice cream had a chilling effect. I know you worry I suffer from an eating disorder. You're not sure you want to be married to a woman who dreams of garlic shrimp linguine, focaccia genovese dipped in herb-infused oil, limoncello tiramisu. But love, how can I explain it? Eating is what I do best. Some people are good at singing, others at dancing or chess. For me, food is like music, like painting. It fills my entire being. Such symphonies of flavors. I see colors when I eat. Ice cream is many shades of blue. Chocolate ice cream is violet, vanilla, swimming pool aqua. It even has a whiff of chlorine. I say this as if you know what I mean, but I doubt you have a clue. Sometimes when I finish a meal, my heart aches. I begin to weep. Is this the sorrow others feel after sex? After all, you know I feel nothing in bed, not even a flicker or blip. Explain it, I beg, as I gaze into your eyes, licking a bonbon, slowly, very slowly. Um, Trying to figure out how much time I have left. Can't remember when I started. So I think I'll finish with
A
a
couple of a
poem.
couple of
Sorry?
minutes. Couple of
Yeah,
minutes.
a couple of minutes.
Um,
Okay.
let's say three.
Let's say 3. Okay, so I'm going to finish. So I thought I'd close with a poem that is more recent, and it's in the style of poems that are in my latest collection, Son of a Bird, which is autobiographical. It's a memoir. Um, and it begins with my mother being ashamed of what I write. So often people used to ask me, "What did your parents think when you wrote the book of orgasms?"
Oh my God,
So
no.
this poem is called "Aren't You Ashamed?"
Oh yeah, the little sausage little hat.
So,
Normal.
aren't you ashamed?
Please mute yourself if you are not the reader.
Aren't you ashamed to stand up and read those poems? My mother asked. I was about to give my first reading at the New Dominion Bookshop in downtown Charlottesville, but I'd only published the Book of Orgasms. What else could I read? Don't you have any nature poetry or farm poems about horses or geese? My mother asked. Who did she think I was? Mary Oliver? But at least she's original, my mother's friend, the poet Eleanor Ross Taylor said in a conciliatory tone. Most poets these days are just so terribly derivative. But you, Nin, how often have I heard, but you, Nin, and the voice trails off. I still remember my father's laugh at cocktail parties. I used to eavesdrop whenever there were guests, announcing, "Let me tell you what Nin did next." He described how I ate all the olives and maraschino cherries out of the cocktail glasses when I was 3, how I belly flopped off the high dive in the diving contest at age 6. I called Mrs. Walrus on the first day of first grade, and when she corrected me, I said, "But that's what Daddy calls you." My first grade Christmas concert was the worst. I can still picture the day. I stood on the bleachers all dressed up in a velvet black dress with a red sash and a matching band. My teeth brushed, my hair washed. These were not ordinary events. My mom always said you only need to wash your hair once a week. Too much shampoo is bad for the scalp. But that morning she combed my hair and wiped the cat food off my fingers with a soapy dishcloth that smelled like onion and bacon and must. I remember blinking under the lights thinking, this is my day. I can be a star. I wanted everyone to see and hear me, me. But I hadn't learned any of the words to the songs. So I began shouting at the top of my lungs. I had bacon and eggs and grits for breakfast. Fa la 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 la. My sister Julie is in the hospital. Fa la 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 with a hernia. Fa la. And we ate Melvin, my pet bull, for dinner last night. Fa la 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 la. And then suddenly, I looked out at the audience and noticed the shiny top of my dad's bald head in the third row, turning from pink to crimson to purple, the way it did when he was so angry he was about to spank me. I'm going to beat you black and blue, he said before picking me up and laying me on his lap. Whap, whap. My dress felt suddenly prickly and tight, and this hot wave of terror started to rise up and up and then I upchucked all over Marlene Leggett, the skinniest girl in our class. She was standing on the bleachers below me, pretty Marlene with her long orange hair, orange with a touch of red like a nectarine. Marlene was the daughter of Leggett's department store, that's how my daddy put it, where my mother bought new cloth napkins and placemats in the spring and once 2 pairs of pinchy patent leather Sunday shoes on sale for my sister Weeza and me. When we tried to return them, the sales lady wouldn't take them back. She said we'd already stretched them out with our porky little feet, and so we wore them every week to church. I was wearing them then, and when I looked down, they were covered in breakfast. Egg chunks and bacon and OJ fresh squeezed with those little white seeds. When the nurse, Mrs. Roush, led Marlene and me off the stage and into the girls' room to rinse in the sink, she said she knew exactly what I ate. So did Marlene. And later she told my parents I must have had quite an ample breakfast and suggested they refrain from feeding me before the next concert. But my mother said not to worry, there wouldn't be a next. At home, neither my mother nor my father said a word. No one spoke at dinner until dessert, when my sister Sal said, well, we heard you, Nin. And Weeza said, yeah, we saw you puke too. And they burst out laughing at me, and I wanted to weep. But my mother insisted it wasn't so bad. Just think, we will always remember Nin's first concert. But if she'd sung the right words, no one would ever recall she was up there today on that stage with all those other pale little girls. Thank you.
That was memorable. Probably a lot like your first. No, I'm only kidding. That was wonderful, really. Thank you.
Yeah.
I like to write embarrassing things about my childhood too, because by the time you get to be an adult, they're not embarrassing anymore. Our next reader is Denise Duhamel. Her most recent books of poetry are Pink Lady from the Pit Poetry Series 2025, Second Story, and Scald. Blowout was a finalist for the National Book Critics Circle Award. A distinguished university professor in the MFA program at Florida International University in Miami. She lives in Hollywood. So she's almost my neighbor.
Well,
Take it.
unfortunately, it's Hollywood, Florida. I think you're in Hollywood, California, right?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
I'm not, but I'm in Orange County, California, but I was thinking it must be a virtual program if you're living on the other side of the country.
right. It is, yep, indeed, a virtual. Thank you, Nin. That was fantastic. It was so good. I'm going to read today from my book, Pink Lady, that Robbi mentioned. Thank you, Robbi, for the intro and inviting us to read. And this is the cover, and that's I think I'm fading, but that's my mom when she graduated nursing school in 1957. So I wanted to also thank, I didn't know Stephanie and Michael would be here, but Michael was really encouraging in publishing some of the poems in Soflo Pojo from this book, and Stephanie helped me so much arrange the poems. So these are a book of, the poems are all elegies for my mother who died in 2021 during the COVID pandemic. And the first one I'll read is called Prodigal Prayer. I kneel before my mother, trying to get her slipper socks over her swollen feet. Then she presses the remote control on her recliner to push her to an almost standing position. Once upright, she is not steady enough to get to the walker alone. Our goal, together to the bathroom on time. Shame, then tears. She soaks her Depends because of a water pill that's supposed to help with her puppy legs, but nothing, it seems, is helping. This is a week before her second fall, the bad one, before the pneumonia and sippy cups, before her right arm no longer works, before the fingers on her right hand go numb. Even when I put a pen between them, she will not be able to sign her name. This is before the hospital and more sippy cups, one with the Nemo logo on loan from her great-grandson. This is before her stint in rehab, where Doug will try to teach her to put on socks with a blue plastic device she slips over her calf, a rope she holds in her good left hand. She will keep cheese popcorn in the seat of her walker and offer some to Doug, who looks like Matt Damon. She will be like a girl with a crush. She misses my dad, dead 11 years, but some days is angry he left her. This is before I drive her 20-year-old Toyota to see her in the Catholic nursing home, where the priest reminds us this too shall pass. I think about my mother passing water, about her ultimate passing, her eventual death. I question if her pain will indeed pass, if what is passing through her body will keep on passing, looping into her, the morphine drip not enough to dilute the pangs in her spine, her neck, sciatic nerves running down both of her legs. A chorus of nuns will sing while playing maracas and tambourines. One sister will drop her percussion as she falls asleep mid-song. It will be funny, then touching, then ultimately so profound. I become my mother, taking care of a 2-year-old me. I become my mother who puts a pillow under my stomach when I can't breathe. With cupped hands, she pats my back just the way the doctor shows her, the doctor who says to pretend my back is a bongo drum. When the fever comes, she rubs my arms with alcohol and flips the pillow under my head to the cool side, puts a bucket near my bed as I am sure to vomit. When we go to La Salette Shrine to see the Christmas lights, I mistake the basin for donations near baby Jesus' cradle as a puke pail. All the kneeling people around us laugh, guessing perhaps what a sick child I am, and how many nights my mother sits up with me with Vicks and antibiotics, inhalers and picture books to help calm the cats who live in my chest making strange wheezing sounds. I'm allergic to cats and dogs and even stuffed animals, grass in the summer and leaves in the fall, lilacs which blossom in spring, and my lungs can't take the winter cold. No wonder my mother wraps the statue of the Virgin Mary she kept by her marital bed and puts it in the bottom drawer. The Virgin helped her to get pregnant, but after me, she's had enough. Soon my mother is again with child anyway. She tells me how I still wanted all the attention, and as soon as my mother started nursing my sister, I put my hand in the diaper pail and stare at her, daring her to make me stop. When JFK was shot and my mother wept in front of the television, I blocked her view with my 2-year-old body and peed on the carpet. Now it is my mother peeing, mortified, drenching her nightgown. She once changed my diapers, and now I change hers. Oh, little mother, my helpless daughter, please forgive me, for I have sinned. It has been years since my last confession, my last therapy session. Hail Mary Jane brownies, please help my mother's appetite. Please help her to sleep. Hail Mary, full of grace. Please heal my mother's bruised face. So Nin and I both have vomit in our homes on Valentine's Day. I'm just realizing that. Vomit and, in my case, other fluids. This next poem is called Wackadoodle. My mother was a fan of the word, often peppering her sentences with it. She visited me in Florida the day after Trump won in 2016. When I'd sent her a ticket, I thought we'd both be celebrating the first woman president. When I picked her up at the Fort Lauderdale airport, nothing looked different. I was baffled, sure that the planes of the world would stop flying, their wings too heavy with grief. I know, of course, planes don't have feelings, and I was projecting onto those silver beaks. My mother and I tried to talk about other things, but we kept coming back to America's withering future. Once in a while, my mother would say, "We just have to give him a chance, I guess." And I would nod, though deep inside I knew Trump was a flim-flam sham, that things would get worse. We didn't know yet that this would be my mother's last visit. We didn't know she would wind up in a nursing home ravaged by COVID-19. We didn't know the U.S. would be ravaged by an insurrection. She was ravishing that November, and men kept trying to talk to her, no hint of death anywhere in her torso. One old dude wearing a scarlet strip club cap cornered her while I was in a restaurant bathroom. All flirting is ruined, my mother said. All I can think of is that wackadoodle, grabbing women by the you-know-what. And this is a Valentine's Day poem. It's called The Last Time I Saw My Mother Before the Pandemic. The last time I saw my mother before the pandemic was on Valentine's Day, 2020. The residents who were able to sit up gathered in the dining room. Pink Lady volunteers decorated with red tablecloths and streamers for a festive lunch. At first, my mother didn't want to go, but I talked her into it. I brought my own food, supermarket sushi, and the residents at the table were mesmerized by it. One had never seen raw fish before. Another said her son eats it too, but she found it scary. They had me read the ingredients aloud. Women from the kitchen served small meals as Frank Sinatra crooned from a boombox. I cut my mother's chicken for her. She was still getting used to eating with her left hand. The server insisted I join in for dessert, a slab of vanilla ice cream cut into the shape of a heart, with a drizzle of raspberry sauce, a silhouette of a lipstick kiss. So my mother worked as she was a nurse, as you saw from the picture on the cover. And when she was a very young nurse, she had worked in the same nursing home where she wound up having her final days. And she made friends with the nurses and said she tried to help them. This is called Snow Globe. My mother tells me the nurses dress like astronauts. Mount St. Rita's must go on the assumption that any of the patients could be infected. The RNs complain that it's hot under their masks and visors, gowns, and jumpsuits. My mother suggests the nurses open the window for air, even though it's chilly, even though it's a nor'easter. All they had to do was get me a blanket. Poor things, they're working so hard. Then her room is a globe, everyone's world shaken, snowflakes and stars. And this next poem is about my mother as a child, and it's called My Mother in a Grass Skirt. My mother in a grass skirt, in a hula dance pose, under the clothesline absent of clothespins or clothes, her long hair strategically draped over her chest. She is 10. It's 1946. World War II has just ended. Her older brother back home. Her older brother, a father figure who will walk her down the aisle when she grows up. He bought her this gift, this rustling skirt, which scratches her waist, this artifact from the Pacific, where he was stationed, where he saw a pregnant woman shot, the only atrocity he'd ever talk about. He was shell-shocked, the word for it then, and he woke up screaming in the bedroom next to my mother's, and my Grammy would go in to soothe him. He was 6 feet tall and 120 pounds, not at all the way my mother remembered him before he left, when he loved food and made a snack of a butter and brown sugar sandwich before my Grammy even finished the supper dishes. By the time my mother married, by the time I was born, he regained his weight and became an accountant through the GI Bill. The rest of his life, he liked numbers and things he could control. My sister and I loved him, our favorite uncle. My mother hated this topless picture of herself. Sometimes her brother's nightmares disturbed her sleep, and she'd doze off the next day in class. She said the grass skirt made her look fat. Of course, I know now it was much more than that. And so my mother lasted quite a few months in the nursing home. And by the time she was in hospice, it was the Omicron variant. I know it's hard to remember, like all the months are a blur, but by July of 2021, there was the Omicron variant. And so you were able to go in for end of life. I was able to finally see her. So I was luckier than a lot of other people. So I was able to see her for end of life visits. And the next few poems are about that. Mercy. Just yesterday, her great-grandsons picked up baby toads and let them hop from their thumbs. I hold her hand and rub her arms and tell her she can let go. The toads landed in the grass where the boys were afraid to step on them. I'm thinking about my mom landing somewhere soft and green when even my rubbing hurts her, when she says, "Please don't touch me." Nourish. My mother's nipple from where I once fed pokes through her hospice gown as though it is one of the snaps. I'm not sure I should touch her breast, rearrange her, as so much of her body hurts, and she's at last floating on morphine. Her nipple once nourished me, but now nothing can nourish her, as she refuses all food. I'm feeling useless, wanting to preserve my mother's dignity, when a nurse with a solution so obvious, so simple, pulls up the bedsheet. And this next poem is the title poem called Pink Lady. I stopped eating apples during the pandemic when I became afraid of anyone else touching food I'd soon consume. Before science understood COVID didn't live on surfaces. These were the days I scoured my doorknobs with overpriced Clorox wipes, waiting for news from the nursing home. Would my mother survive or not? Apples never came back into my diet, even when they were once again deemed safe. I don't crave them anymore, or miss that Pink Lady spray of mist as I took a knife to slice it open. I don't miss the crunch of the peel or the sugary flesh. Whenever I came across a bruise, I'd spoon it out. Apple bruises reminding me of my mother's human ones, how we acclimate, learn to live without. And this next poem is called Purse, and it was written in response to Gertrude Stein, who has a piece called Purse. And I'll read the Gertrude Stein first. A purse was not green. It was not straw color. It was hardly seen. And it had a use, a long use. And the chain was never missing. It was not misplaced. It showed that it was open. That is all that it showed. And this is my poem, Purse. I emptied her white purse, tissue pack and reading glasses, coupons and address book. I once lived in a purse inside her, my first pink home, the umbilical cord, a knotted strap. When I grew up, I took care of my own purse, its pristine lining, never stretched or stuffed with a fetus. I waxed the buckles, polished the pink clit, the tender button that opened and closed my clutch. I carried pleasure inside me, my lips keeping so many secrets. I tipped my mother's empty purse upside down, its vulnerable silk inside torn. And I'm going to end with this poem. It's called After the Tropical Storm, and thank you all very much for listening. After the tropical storm. After the tropical storm, I walk into the Atlantic, the silt so soft I feel like I'm trudging through mud. I begin to swim towards the horizon. It is then I see the baby loggerheads, newly hatched, the size of quarters, paddling beside me. When they swerve, I swerve. When they bob on the surface, so do I. My mother has just died. I follow the turtles for 2 miles, at which point I become one of them, or they one of me, our shells hardening. We eat kelp and fish eggs, keep each other company. We grow and have babies of our own. Theirs are inside eggs. Mine are inside little poems. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you. That was spectacular. Both of you were just terrific. And I know those of us who haven't read your books will want to go and get them. So I put information in the chat and you can look in there from, I hope that will give that information. If not, you can go ahead and post again so people will be able to find them. Because we turned out to have a lot of people, why don't we make it one poem each? Okay, one fairly short poem each, and doesn't have to be itty bitty, but fairly short. So our list, our first person on the open mic is Hedy.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nin and Denise, for this wonderful, wonderful reading. I will be sharing screen if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Rob.
I have to let you, so let me fix that up. It's not giving me that option now. I hate that. Now let's see. Okay, multiple. There you go. Now try it.
Okay. Okay. Okay, I'll be reading a poem from my latest collection, Or Did You Ever See the Other Side, an ekphrastic collection. And this poem is inspired by Jeremy Miranda's Salt Marsh. Or how much of yourself remains within the walls of a home? I wanted to dive into the troubled waters of forgotten memories, haunt the house of early emotions, but found it empty. I wanted to find the lingering scent of jasmine where jasmine never grew, even if it wasn't spring. Unspoken words fall heavily on the kitchen tiles. A cascade of rough-edged syllables floods the floor. My chair is glued to the table. I'm trapped within clouds, preventing me from seeing how the marsh grows wider, how walls collapse. Spikes and bluish-green leaves crested with plumes line the edge of the water where glasswort blushes against sea lavender. I'd run my fingers over the red round stems, crush the purple petals under my teeth to release their essential oils. I can still see the russet tree's wavering reflections, its roots that seem to come down from the sky. Your body awakens each night under my fingertips shortening the distance between my lips and your skin until your body remembers, until the sky sinks into water, mist so thick a hummingbird floats in minute droplets in suspension. I feel the current of the first kiss in my curls, our knees shaking. Thank you.
That's lovely, Hedy. Thank you. Our next reader is the first David. David O is the second David. So the other David, are you here, David? David Devine. So unmute yourself and read a poem.
Okay, here we go. Thank you for having me be here today. This is a nice opportunity to be able to read for everyone. And this is a poem I just wrote not too long ago. It's called If You Call Out for Love. If you call out for love and you are sincere, the sound of your soul the angels will hear. Don't ask me how, but they'll send you a song and they'll let you know in this world you belong. To the sun and the moon and the stars up above, they'll lighten your heart and surround you with love. They'll banish your fears and take hold of your hand and show you a world that love understands. With a welcome embrace and a smile to behold, and a resting assurance wherever you go. It will lighten your night and carry you through. For how do I know this? I don't know, but I do.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Our next reader is Stephanie.
Stephanie had
Stephanie?
to leave. I think I just saw in the chat she had to leave.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Thank you for telling me. So our next reader is Dick.
Well, I think I will go with the Valentine's Day theme.
Okay.
I usually do my most recent poem, but I'll just do this. It's called A Short History of the Birth of Stars. In bed tonight, my wife asks me about the news, what story I'm excited about by today, and while I'm not sure if this is like talk therapy or foreplay, I tell her that the James Webb Space Telescope captured an image of a galactic cloud not so far away, 160 light years as the crow flies, I add, and she laughs at my joke. So maybe this is foreplay, and I tell her it is a stellar nursery, a place where millions of baby stars burn their ways into being, and she stirs at the word nursery. And I think now we're really getting somewhere, and I tell her about the shroud of cosmic dust between us and those stars when other telescopes like Hubble look in their direction none can see through. And she kind of sighs, sad, that something so beautiful could be the victim of galactic haze. And I'm thinking, well, maybe talk of smog space dims her ardor, so I add that the dust is the remains of older stars, and it feeds the birthing ones, like rotting flora and flesh feeds the soil we grow food in, and I can tell that she feels curiously aroused by this cosmic circle of life. So hands and bodies follow, find their way as we move through dilated time, fall into each other's curved space, and when we emerge, whole and halved, she a nova, me a darker star, she lets loose like in the movies when a sated lover cries out an ex's name, Webb, oh, definitely, James Webb, which made me feel like a nova too. And that's our little astronomy lesson for today.
Love it. You always find a zinger for us, Dick. Now we get the second David. David O.
Thank you. Thank you, Robbi. Thank you, readers. My poem is called The End of Everything. And it's inspired by Robert Frost's poem, Fire and Ice, which was inspired by a conversation he had with Harlow Shipley, the astronomer, who he asked him, how does the world end? And Shipley said, well, basically, it could either end in fire or it could end in ice. So the beginning of this poem has an homage to that poem. At first, the sun grows larger, turning its fiery lips to kiss the earth, burning each of the upturned eyes that watch before burning all the eyes, then burning the ashes from those eyes, and the oceans boiled every tear into the air, which also burned away. And all that remained was burned, and all that was burned swallowed into the enormous red swell. At first, the stars grew larger, turning its fiery lips into kiss the earth, spurning the advances of the unwanted suitor before running away into the cold, as love always runs from fire. And the oceans froze, every tear that fell from the billions of frozen embraces, and all that remained was ice, and all that was ice swallowed into the enormous black hollow. Luckily, you were not there by then. Even the memory of you long, long gone before memory itself was gone, and beauty and compassion gone, and love gone, and hate and envy and injustice finally gone. Nor were you there when the sun shrank back from its colossal discharge to sprawl in the smaller white heat of satisfaction, or when many years later it became bored with passion, sleeping singly in the dark, spent of all reason to get up. Nothing stays around another's misery for long. And since all things turned to despair, each thing moved away from the other until everything was alone. The loneliness grew unbearable over time, so each lonely thing broke into pieces of emptiness. Every emptiness filled a place with nothing, and one by one the places also became nothing. Then the last empty place was gone. You were not there for that either. All of which makes my irritation at the waitress who still hasn't brought cream for my coffee seem petty. But that's the way with us, isn't it? Focused on tiny squabbles while the universe disintegrates around us. Physicists are so sure how it will all end. All that dark at the end of the tunnel. So much conviction, so few particulars, as sure today as mistaken yesterday. I confess I don't worry much about this. I'm lazy and not good with math. I'm holding out for a new theory, something a bit more optimistic. Sunlight is startling through the cafe window. The famous old fire stretches across the back of my hand. Its searing lips kiss the reassuring air that embraces me. This is love, my love, if I know anything.
That's spectacular, David. Thank you so much. I hope that's the center of some new collection you're putting together.
Okay. Well, I'll take you to heart.
Okay. Our next reader is Gary Rosin.
Okay, and today I'm going to, my mother's birthday was yesterday, and so instead of a Valentine's poem, I'm going to read one about my mother, which is an odd one because my parents commissioned poems to be read at their funerals. And my father actually published it as a part of her obituary. So this is called Mother in the Mirror. Mother in the mirror is larger than she appeared after the erosion of years. Illness and infirmity sucked away at her life, but never drained her spirit. If you listened carefully, you still could hear her love, hear the play of words, but you had to look closely to see the beauty of youth. Remember all the changes, the shift of shade and self, the alchemy of beauty, spirit remaking itself. Mother always seemed at ease, slipped across boundaries, easily changed her mass. Now mother, now hostess, ready to roll up the rugs, dance a pasacalle. Now a gringa, fishing lakes with monkey islands, streams that etch the paramo. Ready for tumble bulls and remote mountain altars, her spirit never backed down, fills the mirror of memory.
Thank you, Gary. That was delightful. Nancy Sobanik.
Hello, I'm really enjoying this, and I'm going to read a very short poem called The Red-Tailed Hawk. The hawk lifts on earth's warm breath, candlelit by day's rebirth, and flies a Kandinsky of circles, brush stroke on the blue-washed sky. Squirrels and mice stipple the meadow, stop and start pixelations spotlighted in the growing light. The end drops as a bolt. Then grasses toss their hair as usual. Wildflowers waft treacle to entice fickle bees. The hawk's nest is furred. The gold blossom sun beams in sheer love. Nothing ever really dies.
Thank you. And our penultimate reader is Tresha.
Hello, can
Still there,
everyone hear me? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
here. I am here. I want to read a poem about marriage because it is Valentine's Day. And this was recently published in Eclectica, and it's actually based on a quote that my mother-in-law always says. And she says she got it from a comedian, but she can't remember who. But my husband's always quoting her and saying, like, the definition of marriage is one wants the window open, one wants the window closed. So that's the title of this poem. One wants the door open, one wants the door burned down in a revolution. One wants the fireplace, one wants the ceiling fan. One wants to talk like a baby and walk on their knees. One wants to have a serious conversation about their relationship. One wants to play in the water in a secret pool in the jungle. The other wants to move to London and read all day in a bookstore while it rains. One wants to become the other's sandwich, bag of potato chips, side order of baby carrots, and a drink. One wants to share whatever the other one has. One wants a door to stop burning. The ceiling fan wants to cool the fireplace's glow. Your knees want a serious conversation about our relationship to carpet. London wants to be a jungle again. The bookstore wants to be a secret pool. I want to rush into night like a bag of potato chips. You, my baby carrot, you are the expensive sandwich. I am the only plate you have.
That's one I haven't heard before, My Baby Carrot. But I guess if the French can have their little cabbage, we can certainly have a baby carrot. Why not? Thank you so much. And
Thank you,
I am
Robbi.
last, and I am going to, because I've been reading so much from my new book, which is an ekphrastic collection. Um, the poem that Nin read about her friend marrying the art student reminded me of this poem in my book that I have not read in all the readings I've done from this book. So I'm going to read it now. And that is a photograph by Rupert Jessup, and it was a prompt in visual verse some years ago that I wrote to. And the poem is called Fitting. 1. The tailor. He fashions suits and dresses out of silk and scraps. The point, the process, tiny identical stitches orbiting the buttonholes, hems and cuffs turned like hospital corners, the fabric's immaculate fit. He must make each piece to order for its own sake, transform the ordinary. After measuring the body, he'd rather not look back at it again, preferring to imagine the ideal. This red gown will hang like a Chinese maple leaf, waiting ready to fall. The body a whisper under the weave. From the bodice, with its tiny tucks and folds, will rise the shoulders, the head on its stem of neck, the upswept nape, a violet just burst from the bud. 2. The girl. I ought to be wearing nothing but my own smooth skin. To please others, I bind my body in silk, a pale lace wing fly caught in a web of social conventions. They have decreed I must teeter on tight pointed shoes. The tailor, consulting his measurements, never looks into my eyes, hardly sees me. In this, he is no different from so many others, with their ready-made notions of who I am, who I ought to be. And that is from my book About to Disappear, which was released in October by Shanty Arts, and it has some images in it, and that's one of them. Thanks so much for being here today. I love everybody's contribution, our features most especially, but everyone. And I love our community. So please come back. I hope to see you next month and month after that. And people who couldn't be here today, I hope you can watch this on video when it's put onto the archive at First Virtual's uh, website. I'm going to turn off the recording now so we can chat.